we're at Fanboy Expo 2023 in Knoxville, Tennessee. Let's see what we can get into today. Get a little look at the kind of crowd we're dealing with on a Saturday afternoon. We're going to head up to the Q&A panel with Adrian Paul from like Highlander. He was in Season of Arrow. And my favorite part of any convention, escalator.
I'm the privilege to bring to the stage at this time. He is the one, he is the only, Adrian Paul!
Now on. Yeah. How are we? I'm the closing act. Last. Save the best for last.
This is a wrestling game. Yes, it's a main event. How's it been for you so far this weekend?
Busy. You guys are awesome. You guys keep coming up.
Busy's good. Busy's good.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, okay, so we'll chat for a little bit, and we do have a mic in the crowd, so whatever questions you guys may have, we'll get to that in a few. So, I kind of wanted to start by asking, and I hope that this is okay. One of the things I was reading about you is some of your favorite authors and playwrights would be Shakespeare, Tennessee Williams, and Anne Rice. And yeah, please.
Yes.
Can you confirm? Is my first question.
Yeah. Actually, obviously I studied at the Tennessee Williams play, so I love that. And there's some Shakespeare when I was young as a kid. So those were the ones I was kind of inspired by. But lately, I think I don't have a lot of time to read, because I just kind of do a lot of scripts and I've got so many things, businesses to talk about. But I just read a book by a friend of mine called The Greater You, which is about so many things I used to live my life by, and I forgot. You know how many of those things you go out there and you say, I'm going to do this, and then suddenly you're busy and you do something else and you're not living your life how you kind of wanted it to be. And it's a great book. It's a great book. I recommend it. And it really talks about being in the present, not judging people, how you should always focus on what you want to achieve in your life. All those positive things rather than the negative, which is, and I talked about this last night in the sword experience. So people turn around and went, oh, I don't know if I can. No, there's no no. There is no no. You always can do whatever you want to do. It's in here most of the time. The negativity that we say, I can't do it. I can't doesn't work. I can, or I will do as hard as I can to get what I visualize, that's how you should live your life. So that's how I do it.
With a lot of positivity, and I appreciate that. And I feel like, especially this year, one of my goals and mindsets has been to live in the moment more. I feel like that's been a really tough thing to do.
It's hard for everybody to do because everybody has baggage. You all have baggage, right? Yes. You all have your lives, you've done, you've all stuck your finger in the electrical socket. I don't want to do that anymore, right? But the thing is, if we live our lives from that past, we're not going to appreciate the present now. Right now is what's important, right this minute. It doesn't matter what you do later on. It doesn't matter what happened 3 years ago, 3 weeks ago, 3 minutes ago. It's what happens right now. That's what's important. And that's hard to do because we're always, and it's a process. You've got to wake up in the morning. And I started to do this now. I started to wake up in the morning and go, okay, what do I want to achieve today? Okay, I want to be kinder to people. I want to be more, I want to smile better with people. I want to be more appreciative of what people give me, etc. And if I can think of that in the morning, I'm going to start living my life like that. But if you don't stand up, get up in the morning and start thinking about that, you're not. You're going to fall back into, oh, I can't do that. Oh, that person can, and you're going to judge. And that's the hardest thing you don't want to do. Right. You know this is going to be the start of talk, isn't it?
No, this is great. We need more positivity. Well, okay, so we did say this is the main event, and kind of segue back into the wrestling thing. You did appear on SmackDown. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience on SmackDown?
That was fun. That was many years ago. Christopher Lambert and I, or Christophe Lambert, depending on which country you come from, we went there to kind of advertise the Highlander Endgame that we did. And I remember the time we went backstage and I met all the wrestlers and then saying hi. And they had, every single one of these has a skit, right? And it has this person's against this person, this. So the whole thing I was like, I want to meet The Rock. I want to meet The Rock. I had no clue who The Rock was. No. And he comes up to me and he's like, I'm Dwayne. I'm like, hey, how you doing? You alright? Afterwards, that was The Rock. Oh, shoot. So it was kind of fun, but it was fun to do. But you come from our work, so you got 20,000 people in an arena watching a wrestling match, especially back then. This was 2001. Yep. It was not really, you didn't really kind of understand that fun. Now today it's 20,000 a week, 30,000. It's huge. But yes, it was an eye-opener.
I'm sure. And so you said you were there. It was kind of like a crossover with Highlander, you said?
Yeah, we were doing a couple promo for Highlander, so they invited both of us there to sort of cheer them on the ringside, big film, doing it, get on the screens, all that type of stuff. Yeah,
was there any other cool crossovers that you got to do through your time with Highlander?
I've met so many different rock stars: Joan Jett, Roger Daltrey, Robin Gibb. There's so many. Sheena Easton. You know her, right? So Sheena's awesome. I actually was in her video. Yeah, this is what's really funny. I was in her video when I was just first starting in Los Angeles, and then she's on my show, and I'm like, "Hi, Sheena, did you remember that video? Oh, I haven't seen it." So that was that, and that's happened a couple of times actually. You've heard of Duran Duran.
Woo! Yes!
You're old enough, right?
Yeah.
So Duran Duran, I was in one of their videos playing a Matador, which my co-host on my charity podcast that I've now done over 650 hours of podcast. You don't have that in there, do you? You should stop lots of notes. So he's always making not fun of me. He said, "No, that's a good credit." But everybody goes, "Oh, you're Duran Duran, you got your cape." So that was a Matador. So it's fun to sort of have the cycle go through.
That's so cool. That's amazing. And I think you have a really cool background too, because from what I've read, obviously we know you have experience in martial arts, but also experience as a dancer and choreographer.
Yeah, I started as a. Let's tell this story. I started as a model.
No, surprise!
this competition. I'm like, you did what? And she said, I entered you in this competition, you'd be a male model. And I'm like, oh, you've got to be kidding me. She said, yeah, you're one of the finalists. I said, you've got to be kidding me. So there was a magazine called Company Magazine, which is still a pretty big magazine, and the final thing was to get a contract with an agency. So I won. I'd never won anything in my life before, but I won this thing. So I started doing modeling, and I started doing some print work, and also fashion shows, where you were walking. I wanted to do fashion shows, walking up and down. The first one I did was at a royal gala, because somebody fell out. And I'll have to do this to get to the real thing in. So I'm walking down, here come the lights, everybody down the catwalk down here, cameras, lights, Her Royal Highness at the end of the catwalk, right? They've given me a shirt, a satin shirt, or silk shirt, and on top a jacket where it has an indoor silk lining. And so I put it on, and I'm scared stiff. Because so I start walking down this catwalk, and I'm walking like this. And as I'm doing that, I can't move, but as it's happening, the jacket is gradually falling down my head. So I'm walking down there, and I get to the end of the catwalk, it's about that here, and I'm like, oh, forget it. And I just went this. Like this. I got known as the bum. So that started me off as doing catwalk and stuff, and I started doing dance, and I started going into Paris, and I had some friends of mine. I had I walked into the auditions for this group that did all these tours around Germany, Italy, France, etc. And they did these dance tours, and a friend of mine said, why don't you come to the audition? So I went into the audition, so I walked in early, he wasn't there yet. So I got there, and they said, oh, you come for the audition? I went, no, not me, I'm not. So I started talking to them, and a couple of the boys in there were in this group I'd seen dance in England. They were really good. You know, I was like, oh, these two boys, great. A couple of the girls were English, and they were the leaders. They were all really good dancers. And I started talking to them, and I kind of got friendly with one of the girls, so, you know, anyway. So I'm talking, and hours go by, my friend turns up, another hour goes by, this guy turns up for the audition. And they're like, why don't you go into the audition? I've seen the moves, I'm kind of like, yeah, I could probably try that. So I did, I went in an audition. And I auditioned, and I kind of, that's how I started. I got the job type of thing by accident. I did travel to Germany that night with the passport, with no clothes, because I like other girls' clothes to some point. Yeah, that was a whole other panel. So that's how I started, and that's how I started as a dancer, and then I started doing vaudeville, just started as mime shows, that type of stuff. Then I started choreographing, and I choreographed in the United States. When I first came to the United States, I worked for a company called Sebastian International, who did all these hair products. And Sebastian International did all these shows with 30 girls. So I was choreographing 30 girls that had no experience. But the problem was, you know, as a choreographer, you just choreograph people's stuff. You just go from here to here, and you go from here to here, you go on this beat, because you don't know if they've got any experience, because a lot of people are just general public. But the problem is, in between, they get a haircut or their hair dyed. One time, this poor girl, she got her hair dyed, and it's like, I don't know what they did to it, or whatever. She was so upset. She got up with the music, she got down the steps, walked out, left it, and never came back. She's gone. So you had to deal with that. So I started choreographing. That's kind of how you get, you know, it's the same thing with katas or martial arts. You put a series of movements together, and that's the same thing as a choreographer.
So before we do get to questions from the crowd, because y'all are already lining up, feel free. Which of your roles do you think your experience of being, you said the mom was your name, would you say played the most into any of your characters? So like, modeling led to you playing which of your characters the best?
You know, I always believe in studying before I do anything. And when I first started acting, I wanted to study first. I don't think you can become an actor just because you can become an actor. You know, I actually was in, when I was in Romania doing Highlander Endgame, there was a guy in the pub, a young boy, and he turned around and said, "You're an actor, right?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm an actor." He goes, "Yeah, so what's it like?" I said, "Well, it's a lot of hard work." He said, "No, and say the lines, right? I looked at him, I went, no, that's not it. Actors, it's a craft. There's a lot of stuff you have to do. You have to look at the script, how does your character work through the script? What does your character want? What are the loves and the hates and all that? There's a lot of stuff to fill. So for me to take what you take your past life and sometimes you substitute those things when you're playing a role. So some of that stuff worked, but you know, I'm still young at that point, so I didn't really have a lot of life history. I just had to do what things came to me that were personal that I could use as an actor. So.
Life experience, I love it. Perfect, all right. Well, you're up first, my friend. Do you want to tell us your name and your question?
My name is Frank Papadopoulos. No, I'm just kidding. It's Steve.
Hi, Frank.
You said you want to show more kindness. Can you show kindness to me and give me a free autograph?
So cool.
Thank you for the question.
Yeah. Like in wrestling terms, I have to be the heel here and kind of shut it
It
down.
doesn't mean I can answer it. Kindness is kindness. And then there's charity.
Well, the real reason I'm up here is, of course, I first seen you on highlight of the series. Enjoyed it. It was very good. But my question would be is there any arch villain that you would love to play?
God, there's so many. One thing that I'm not really into is the superhero thing. I'm kind of over that.
It could be anything.
You know, Keegan in, is it Keegan in Walking Dead? No, Negan in Walking Dead would be better fun. He's a nasty villain. But I played a couple of villains. You know, I was in Arrow playing a very Dante, I'll tell a story about that actually, because I do research on stuff when I do things, and Dante, his character was after Dante Alighieri, which was a famous character in the mythology. So I did all the research on him, and there was a composer that had done this song, or these songs on it, and I saw it, oh, that's kind of cool. That's part of what he does when he comes into people. So I created this whistle. It was a whole song, but I wanted to do this as I walked into the room. So you heard the whistle first before I come into the room, right? Which they kept in there. But to do that, I said to the director, "Can I do this whistle?" They were, "Oh, well, hold on, we've got to tell the Warner Brothers about that. We'll get back to you." To whistle? Like, so, you know, there's a lot of constraints you have now in TV and film, because there's so many more people that say, "This is my right, these are my lines, you have to say them exactly like this." You know, so it's a little harder than what we used to do, which was ad-lib sometimes. And I was actually just looking at something now. Some of the most famous lines were ad-libbed. They were ad-libbed. The one in Jaws, you know, you need a bigger boat, was actually ad-libbed, right? Sean Connery's was like, "Where do you think she got that?" Sean Connery turns around and goes, "She talks in her sleep." What should I say? She talks in her sleep.
My favorite is "I'm walking here" from Taxi.
Yeah, exactly. Or "You looking at me? You looking at me? You looking at me?" That was an ad-lib. That was an ad-lib. All these famous lines, and the same thing with Harrison Ford in Raiders of the Lost Ark. You know this one, right? But when he's going to do the fight with the big guy, he said, "Why don't I just get a stomachache?" Oh, he said, "Why don't I just shoot him?" That's one thing to remember.
Great question.
Thank you.
What's your name?
My name is Andrew, and I just wanted to mention the first episode of Highlander I ever saw has Richard Mole in it from Nightport, and also Christopher Lambert in it. You got any funny stories or any stories from that episode of Highlander? Both of those guys.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you, you know, when I first started, I was supposed to be Connor McLeod. Thank God I wasn't. I mean, seriously, because everybody would compare Christoph to me then, right? You're comparing the same, but he plays it this way. My favorite is this. This is what happens. So literally, 3 days before we start shooting, I get no, sorry, it's okay, we've got Christoph next week, so we're going to wait a week, but you can only start shooting in a week. So we're going to have to change your name. I was like, fantastic, great. So I met Christoph, we got on like a house of five from the beginning. And Christoph has a way about him. It's a pity he's not here because I've been doing it. I'll probably be doing this in front of you laugh at this. But anyway, we're doing the scene in the kitchen when he's talking to Tessa about getting old. What it's like to lose somebody from way, way back. And she says, what is it like? And he says, well, you know, I got this thing, and suddenly gets into this voice. I got to tell you this. And I go, oh my God, he's turned 300 years old. He literally turned and I was like, oh my gosh. So that was a really interesting moment for me. The interesting one on the bridge when we did the final fight, Richard Mole was a big boy. You know, Richard is 6'5", 6'6". No control, zero, swinging a massive sword. And I'd done some rehearsals before. Christoph had done some, but about, I want to say a few months prior, somebody split his hand open or doing a fight with somebody. And somebody said, I don't feel comfortable fighting Richard. Can we use the stunt guy? So that's actually a stunt guy fighting him for most of it, except for some of the close-ups. So because then on Christoph's side, when you're seeing him, it's the Richard's stunt guy on the other side. And then Christoph's stunt guy fighting this way. So you didn't want to touch swords with him. And you know Richard Mole, he's got that thing like this. He's got this. I've never seen anybody that has a permanent line through here and here. That's permanent. I don't know how he does it. I have no idea he did that. But anyway.
My name's Robert. I'm just curious, what actually drew you to the role of Duncan for Highlander?
Money? I'll be honest with you, I want to say 6 to 8 months prior, I went into a casting office in LA, and I walked in and they had Highlander 2 on the wall, and I looked at the poster and I went, I'm going to do something with that, I know I am. I swear to God, I said, I'm going to talk about envisioning what you're going to do. I said, I'm going to do something with that. And about 6 months later, I got a casting call. It was just a casting call to go in and meet them. I was the first person they ever saw for the role. I walked into the room. There was Marla Ginsburg, one of the producers, Bill Panzer sitting over there, another producer, the casting officer over here, and another producer. There was like 4 or 5 people in the room. They sat in a chair like this, and I turned around and I said, well, you don't have to look any further, you found your guy. I swear to God, he said it to me, and he looked at me like, cheat. And then, then it took about another 2 months before they called me in for a reading, and then about 3 or 4 weeks for a reading, and then after that there was a screen test, where 5 of us went up into Paramount and we did a screen test, and then from there it came down to 2 people, 1 in England and 1 me. But because the reason why is when you're looking at something like that, there were 5 countries, that meant 5 groups of people deciding who the Highlander was going to be. Japan, Germany, France, Italy, and the US. 5. Nobody, can you imagine that lot trying to agree on something? So we got down to 2, and I got to the point, I'd done it was 3 weeks gone by. I heard nothing after we did the audition, the screen test. Nothing had happened. And my agent calls up and says, listen, it's been this long. The other guy's got it. I think the other guy's got it, but we've not heard anything, and I'm going on vacation tomorrow. So I'm really because I really thought I was going to do this thing. And I was like, so I said, okay, fine. So he goes on vacation, and 2 days later I'm in the gym, and I'm working out in the gym, and I look across and I see this Mercedes over this side here. And I'm like, God, if I'd gone that road, I could have bought one of those cars. And I get home, and my ex-wife, my first wife, which is my girlfriend at the time, she said, you got it! I said, got what? Highlander! I said, what? And you're leaving in 3 days. And that's how I got the role.
Quick turnaround. Getting the role from what's your name?
My name is Sean. I've got kind of a dual question, opposite ends of the spectrum. One was your favorite Tennessee Williams play, and how often
Tennessee Williams, I did a car park in Camelot Tin Roof, which was kind of fun. You know, I mean, I've forgotten a couple of ones from there, but that was one of the ones I did, and there was another great one, I forgot the name of it. It might have been Tennessee Williams, who was an English player actually. But I did that one, and there was another one, I can't remember the name, I can't remember any others, sorry about that. I'm getting old, this happens.
Hey, what's your name?
My name is Brandon, and my question is, what actor on Highlander did you enjoy working with the most?
None of them. They're all lousy. No, really, they were awesome. Seriously, I made some great friends on that show. You know, you spend, when you work as an actor with people, you spend so much time with them. Every day, you're sitting there for hours at a time. But in reality, it's like you've been suspended out of reality because it's not real. You're living in a fantasy world. So most of the time, when you work with people, you're like, you spend hours and hours of a day, weeks and months talking to them, understanding them, what their hates and blah blah. And then you leave and say, look, we're going to keep in touch. Absolutely. I can count on one hand how many people that have kept in touch with me, you know, from that. But from the Highlander show, Stan Kirsch was a really dear friend of mine. Elizabeth Grayson, I still talk to. Alexandra Vandernoot, I saw 3 weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago in Paris. She's probably coming to my Vancouver School Experience 30-year reunion that we're doing in September. So we'll see. I've got to make sure she's definitely coming. I'm not saying that yet, but so Jim Burns, I mean, from time to time. Peter Wingfield has now gone and become a doctor. Say that again. Make those. That's right. Make those. He was great. You know, I did a story about it. It was funny because actually when we were in Paris, we did the tour of some of the locations in Paris, which we couldn't do in Vancouver at the start of the first year. But in Paris, I met Peter Wingfield the first time under the bridge. There's this famous bridge that you take the shot the barge from, and he was just sitting on the floor learning lines or doing something. And I went up to him. I've not met him yet, and I go up to him, you know, and I met him and go, hey, you know. I'm Adrian, nice to meet you. It's so fine, and Immortals and this, and he looks at me and goes, And afterwards he goes to me and says, I have no clue what you're talking about, I've never watched the show. He was totally mythos. He's totally a nonchalant mythos, and that was Peter Wingfield. But he's now become a anesthesiologist, I can't even say it. He was actually the first person other than myself and my wife who saw my youngest son in the hospital just before COVID. There you go.
Great. So we should have time for these 6 questions right here. They should be perfect. What's your name?
Hi, my name is Shannon, and I know you had mentioned about working with different music people on Highlander, and one of my favorites is Product Country because those are always the funniest episodes that y'all have done. Is there a favorite funny episode that you have done that just really sticks out?
Those are the ones that are always humorous, was me and Roger. Roger and I we just, you know, clicked. It just happens sometimes. And he has this way about him, you know, I kind of look at him and go, what are you doing? And there'd be the one we got stuck in a suit. And when it was what was the way it was a suit of armor. And I can't remember the name of that episode. No, it wasn't the Stone Stone. It was the one where we were in it was a flashback to the 1930s. I forgot the name of the episode, but he was like, why not get in that? I said, why not pull his shoe off? All of that was that thing. Pulling it, running in on the road. And he was always trying to make funny jokes and stuff. And it was just natural with him. But the one we actually had a really funny time for, and I think it's in the bloopers, was when we went out to do this, actually the Stone School, we actually had a flashback back into a golf course for the 1920s or something. So we're all dressed up in this, you know, the shorts that come up to the knees and fluffy shirts and all this caps and all this stuff. And it's a really foggy day. Imagine like a really beautiful like golf course with a lot of fog on it. And we're doing this thing where we're hitting these golf balls, and he's obviously missing them doing this. So we've done the rehearsals, And as we're standing there, he said, okay, ready? We ready to go? Yeah, ready, okay, roll, camera, and action. So what do you think? There's a cow behind this, right? Okay, cut. All right, let's do this. Okay, roll, take two, and action. So anyway, every time this bloody cow would just move every time you start to start. You have to move the thing. You try pushing the cow. You know what the cow's in? Doesn't work. So, so that was we laughed about that. That was kind of fun every single time that happened. So, yeah, we always kind of had to have fun when we were doing stuff. Yeah, so it's about as much as I can give you for now.
You said this is the bloopers. You can see that somewhere?
Yeah, there was one in the bloopers. That counts in the background. You can hear it.
What's your name?
My name is Heather, and I didn't know the story about you originally breaking into acting and everything else via modeling. I was one of the thing back there. And what I wanted to know is, since the 80s, early 90s were considered the era of the supermodel or whatever, did you ever do any really super duper like high profile shows for anybody? You know, Gucci, Chanel, any of those types of people back in the day?
No, I did Vogue spreads and stuff like that.
You did do some runway work, but
Yeah, I didn't do very big ones. I did some in Paris and some in Milan, but very small. It's nothing any really big. It's funny because it's like movies. There are waves of movies. Everybody does these types of movies. And back then it was the blue-eyed, blonde American model. I didn't fit that mold, right? I was not, So I'd go into Italy and they look at me and go, no, what do you want? They said, no, it's no good. And this happens to the story. I wanted to get into the Italian modelling scene because this was where everything was happening. The big model, the big. If you got spread in Italian Vogue, you'd be doing this. So I put my stuff into Italy. I went in there and I speak fluent Italian. And I walked in and I spoke in Italian. They're like, oh, no. He's Italian. This is not good. He's blonde. No. So bye first time. No. Second time I went in, talked Italian again. Didn't get it again. Third time I went in to a different agency. I didn't. I spoke English. As much English as I could. And they took me on. Wait. So, imagine agencies, lots of total agents doing between each other. This model is this model is that, blah, blah, blah. They're all talking in Italian. I'm with one of the most powerful agents in Milan at the time. And he's there, his name was Luigi, of course. Right? And Luigi was very well known at the time, very powerful, etc., etc. And I'm there for at least 3 weeks without telling them I understand absolutely everything they're talking about. And one day, they're talking and they say this and I went, sì, ma davvero, io ti posso dire questa cosa? And they look, all the agents just stopped and went. And then it went around everybody that I got over Luigi, I heard it. So it was kind of fun time for me to get into that business, but it was only small things I did at the time.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
What's your name?
Hi, my name's Josh. We've met.
Yes, Josh, we've met.
The episode was Unusual Suspects. I just looked it up.
And that's what it was, Unusual Suspects, yeah.
So I want to bring it back to wrestling a little bit, because the first episode I saw was Epitaph for Tommy. Epitaph for Tommy. I didn't realize until years later that despite being a huge wrestling fan, that Roddy Piper was the villain in it.
Yeah.
Do you have any good memories about working with Roddy?
Yeah, Roddy was great. I mean, Roddy is like, he gets in. He was also a martial artist as well, so he was really kind of tough. And he said to me, I remember we were in the gym one day working out. This is Adrian. This is if you want to get your muscles up really quickly, this is the exercise you've got to do. But I said, oh, great, thanks, buddy. And this is the choke, and this is so I'll get the choke out. And we rehearsed with the sword. And when I'm fighting Roddy, there was a parry that I was doing, a block that I was doing, and I said to Bob Anderson, I'm like, it feels really weak. I just know there's something wrong with that. He goes, no, it's fine. And all of a sudden, I do this block, and Roddy comes around this way, bam! My sword snaps in half, and the thing goes, bing, and I'm holding like half a metal sword. And then, cut! And they're like, what do you got? You've got to ease up a little bit. He goes, yeah, but fighting Adrian, it feels like I'm really doing a real fight. I'm like, yeah, but Ronnie, we got to chill out because that was dangerous. It was. The whole thing just literally flew out.
I also recall a behind-the-scenes rehearsal where he used pocket sand.
He did what?
Pocket sand.
Pocket sand. When did he do that? I didn't see that.
I don't think it made the final fight, but it looked like it was in the loft of the gym, just like a rehearsal.
Maybe, yeah, probably. It wouldn't surprise me. No, but I love Ronnie. It was cool. We also had what's his name? That was beginning of year 2. It was an Indian thing. I actually did a fight with a spear. It was
Tex Cobb.
Tex Cobb. Tex Cobb had the strangest laugh I've ever heard a human being have. I thought somebody was dying. he got hit by a truck. I'm not going to lie, he got hit by a truck because he crossed the street. Got him again, and I'm going no, seriously, it was funny. I like Tex. He was like the legend. You're the real deal. I'm like, thanks, Tex. Because he was a scary dude.
All right, thank you.
All right. What's your name?
My name is Jacob. I was wondering, during the course of Highlander, did your creative decisions outside of your role stand? Were there any people that you butted heads with, like writers or actors?
Uh-oh. She said it right. She goes, uh-oh. Yes. During Tracker, which was my next one, I butted heads with a writer. I came from the world of organisation, research. Every single show that you have has a Bible. In other words, for Immortals, the Bible was only 2 mortals face each other. You can't fight on holy ground. The quickening does this. That's the Bible, right? When you break that canon, that Bible, people go, well, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. When I did Tracker, I was a little apprehensive about doing Tracker because I wasn't sure about it. It played an alien, and so I wanted to bring in real ones. And the first 3 or 4 episodes, I realized they had no Bible. So I created a Bible myself, my martial art, all the way that aliens move, what their weaknesses were, and we wrote it down, right? I said, listen, we have to do this, because fans, you guys, when you're watching the show, if something turns around and 1 week it's one thing and the 1 week it's another, you get pulled out of the reality of the fantasy. It doesn't work, right? So this writer, who is now a producer, I'm not going to mention names, but anyway, he wrote something that was totally opposite of what we've done. And I'm like, how can that be when you've just done this? Doesn't make sense. And he took offense to that. And I took offense to him taking offense. I've learned since to keep my mouth shut. Shall I tell this story?
Yes.
So we butt heads. We butted heads, and I decided when I was on, he came up and he was supposed to direct one of the episodes, and I was like, oh god, this is going to be fun. So he came up to where we were shooting, and I went up to him and said, listen, let's clear this up. I want to do this. I'm going to go to set. Can we meet afterwards? Yeah, okay. So I go to set, and an hour goes by to that. He left. He just went. So to me, that was total disrespect, because he just told me face to face that he was going to do something. I will never have respect for that person ever again, right? Just because they've done that. Today I might say hello, etc., and deal with him how he is. But to the point of view, this is what happens. So we butt heads there. When this happens, if you're the guy that's doing that, you're going to take umbrage to whatever I've done. I don't know when you talk to her what you said. What she says to him, what you say to him, what you say to her, I don't know what that is. One of the guys on Tracker, who was one of my co-stars, Richard Yearwood, came down to Toronto about 9 months, 10 months after we finished the show. And he said to me, I'm looking for a place to live in LA, I'm trying to find a place, I said, well, you stay at my place, don't worry about it, you stay at my place, no problem. And he finds a place nearby, and he's there for about a week and a half, 2 weeks. And at the end, towards the end of his stay, he said to me, can I ask you something? I said, yeah, sure. He said, did you try to get me fired? I'm like, what? Why would I try and get you fired? He says, what do you mean? What are you talking about? I said, well, I walked into the casting office in Toronto, and the casting director said something to me, and I said, what are you talking about? He said, well, I heard that Adrian was getting you fired, trying to get you fired. That came from the producers and from the people that had talked to this guy. This is where it came from. And I got a bad rap for it. So now I've learned you don't know what you say to people, so you've got to be careful. So I had that rep for a while afterwards because of that. Now you know.
No, we don't. All right,
Hi, Adrian. My first exposure to you, of course, was Highlander, the series. And we all know, I think, how much you put into that show. And it, of course, then that showed, and it had a great influence on, well, my life at least, perhaps many people's lives. Are there any of the roles that you had, whether it was as Duncan or a different role, that had an effect on you, that you were playing a character, but yet that character actually influenced you as far as your thought process or your life, or had some kind of meaning to you?
I think Highlander was probably one of the strongest ones for me because I was doing research all the time on the history part of it. I learned, when you're a kid, your dad can't do any wrong, right? Your dad's your hero, your dad's your this. Your country, it's the best country in the world. Until you learn the history. My country was England. They couldn't do anything wrong until I learned what they did to the Scots. Right? So I learned, I was like, oh my God. So that made me kind of look at things a little differently. And all the decisions that McLeod made, and all the decisions I tried to make throughout, affected me and changed me. And that's why I started my charity, the Peace Fund, back in 1997, was because of those factors that I'd learned while I was doing Highlander. It changed me as a person. So that was, I think, one of the biggest roles that did that to me, that actually made me look at myself and go, I need to look at this, and this is not necessary. What we get told in the news today isn't necessarily the truth. And somebody said to me one time, they said, if you really want a real piece of news, look at the very first report. That's the only real piece of news you're ever going to get. Because the rest of it's doctored. All of it. From right, left, middle, wherever it is, it's doctored as to how they want you to perceive it. And that's unfortunate, because then we make decisions based on that report. Until we do more research, and then we go, well, there's some other factors here. So, you take the Ukraine-Russia war right now. Neither side is right. The Russians aren't the only bad guys. NATO and all the allies and all that have other things that they have in there that we have no idea about. None. And so some of the things you hear are true, but some of it's been doctored. So I always kind of look at that from now. I go, okay, I don't want to make a rule-based decision on one thing I see on TV. Because it might be the wrong decision. I've done that loads of times. I've seen a report on something and go, oh, that's it. And then suddenly I find out later that wasn't exactly the truth. So, that's kind of how I'm looking at things. Other roles, I don't know if any have been so strong to change me in my life, except, I did one called Captain Drake, The Immortal Voyages of Captain Drake. And it was originally a B-movie type of thing, and I looked at it and I went, I know the company, I know they're going to have really lousy special effects. So when I had fun with it, okay, so I looked at research Captain Drake, and I realised he was a very self-centered, egotistical man, and I played him like that and turned it into a comedy. And I had so much fun doing that. And I went, yeah, that's how I should feel when I come off. I should feel good when I'm coming off a set like that. So every role kind of affects you in a sense.
Good question. All right, these are our final two since we're at time. What's your name?
Hi, my name's Desiree. I actually am a Charmed fan, so I know you as Jerry.
Charmed, Jerry.
Yes.
just like a one episode thing? You probably did like maybe a day's worth of work for it, or I don't know.
No, it was 2 days.
Really?
Yeah, it was a few days. It was actually shot in the valley, in Chatsworth, and they had their studios there. And I had a great time. You know, they were all really nice. I actually worked with one guy that came in and did, I want to say, either Tracker or Highlander, I can't remember who it was. He was on it. You keep cross-meeting people when you do it, but Charles was great. I mean, I came in and I had a great time with all of them, you know, Rose McGowan and all of them were fabulous. So,
I loved your energy in it. It was awesome. You did great.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Right, the final question. What's your name?
My name is Troy. So how was it to get Queen to write the music?
Well, I have no say in that. Queen, you know how Queen wrote the music to Highlander? Anybody know this story?
Russell Mulcahy, who directed the movie, he was a rock video director beforehand, and basically just asked him.
Yeah, but what you don't know is they were only supposed to do one song.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
One song, and then they saw the whole thing and went, oh, we're going to put a whole album out on this thing. Yeah, I mean, that was what was amazing about it. And, you know, when you've got Queen, you know, Freddie Mercury doing something like that, you're inspired. So we would have that in the series because they still had the rights to it. So to be able to put that in, you know, Princess of the Universe was just an awesome track. You don't understand, it's okay. No, you do not understand.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. I mean, this has been so enlightening, and thank you so much for all of your stories. We're so wonderful, and like one of the last people said, you just kind of radiate this incredible positivity, and thank you so much. This has been such a joy.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thanks, guys, for coming.
That will do us for today for Fanboy Expo 2023. If you liked the video, please subscribe. If you'd like to see more, I've got some stuff planned, maybe even some spooky places. So we will see you next time. Have a great day.